This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to, well, a wonderful wintry landscape. As you can see, there's a few clouds that are starting to come up that look quite ominous, and so hopefully they will not drift over during the course of the morning, and hopefully it will stay nice and clear for the duration of the day. But I doubt it. It doesn't look like it anyway. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got David, and we are coming to you live from South Africa's Djuma Game Reserve, and that means that we would like to hear from all of you. Need to ask us lots of questions because hopefully we're going to have lots of things to show you this morning. So remember, #SafariLive if you are going to ask questions or if you have any comments to make. Right, now the plan is for the morning. I'm not quite sure what the plan is actually. We've just been sitting here quietly at the junction. Have you got a bird, David? That is amazing because, well, that's probably one of the first things we've seen this morning. We've been out doing some tests with the drone once again since about 4 o'clock this morning. And it's been, well, a little on the dry side. We haven't seen too much this morning. A few tracks here and there, and it seems as though there's some sort of signs that animals have been around, but nothing concrete at this stage. So I'm not quite sure what my plan is just yet. I'm in the southwestern corner at the moment, and I've been switched off for the last 10 minutes just to listen out and see if there was any calls as dawn broke. So I was hoping that we might get a situation where we might get Hukamuri calling or Shidulu and just try and have a little look around for them, but no sign of them at this stage. So I think I'll go check Treehouse Dam and then maybe just meander my way around towards the Mulawati and see if we can follow up on Tingana. That will be the kind of sort of plan, I think. We did go and check for the lions that from yesterday. It seems as though they chased the buffalo once again last night during the course of the night and then went northwards into Buffelshoek. So I don't think they're going to be around. So Tingana is probably our best bet for now. We're going to try and see. Maybe we get lucky with something else. But it's still a beautiful morning. The Birchall starlings are out and they are doing their things, and so hopefully that's a sign that we're going to start seeing some kitties coming out. And, well, anything else. Some ellies also would be nice. I wouldn't mind a nice ellie sighting too. Good. Now, as per normal, it is not just me. There is others that are out and about to entertain all of you. And, well, there's none more entertaining than Ralph Kirsten, and he would like to say good morning.
Absolutely good morning to everybody out there, and a very special warm welcome, albeit very chilly out here in the Djuma Traverse of the Greater Kruger National Park of South Africa. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera this morning I've got Craig, aka Batman. Yes, Batman's up there in the crow's nest. He's going to be helping me look for some wildlife here. So now please don't forget to join us on the #SafariLive on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Send us your questions and your comments and get involved on this very chilly game drive this morning. So as you can see with the clouds around and everything like that, I'm sure Tristan has told you all about it. We're feeling it this morning, but that can be great news for the predators walking around. They could be a little bit more active, and so I've come out and headed onto the northern boundary of the Djuma Traverse this morning. Just going to check for any of the tracks. Maybe the lions have re-entered the property, and then I'm going to head all the way over to Chitwa, where I'm hoping that I could pick up on some signs of Mr. Hosana, which after yesterday when I was on the bushwalk, it looked like he was heading straight for Chitwa and his old abode. Apparently that's part of his normal sort of routine that he follows. So it will be interesting to see whether he's hiding out behind room 10 or if he's behind the dam wall. We'll have to wait and see if we can pick up some tracks on that side. For this morning, for the time being, I haven't seen any tracks of lion or leopard as of yet. The normal hyena tracks are all over the place. I've seen some fresh elephant signs as well, and that's all that I have really picked up for now. But it's always going to be exciting. I think as I get a little bit further to the east, I think that's where the activity has been for the moment. So as Tristan said, as per usual, we're not the only ones out here. There is also a bushwalk out, and that is going to be run by Sydney.
A very, very good morning to you all. My name is Sydney and I am traveling with Senzo. He is my photographer. I'm also having my game scout, Ralph. We are going to be with you as a team this morning and I hope you're all going to enjoy a lot of our natural environment there outside. For the questions and comments, you can follow us on Twitter, #SafariLive. You can also follow us on YouTube chat stream. My plan for this morning is not difficult at all. I am now by the quarantine area. I will be heading to the eastern side of the game reserve where I'm hoping to see some of the activities. You mustn't forget that a guided walk is a completely different from a game drive. So I'm going to be focusing on quite a lot of tiny little interesting insects and interesting small animals. The weather this morning is not that very bad. It's nice and cool. There's no much wind at all. It's very quiet. But I can see there is some little bit of clouds here. And these clouds, yeah, they are very dark, but quite a lot of spaces up here by the sky is much more open. You can see there we have got some clouds, dark clouds. Maybe these dark clouds are going to disappear, or else they might try to build up and the whole area can be overcast at any time. Where I am now, I have got some of the very interesting evidence here on the ground. The area is open, but the surrounding here, we've got grasses. Who is doing this? One of the animals is doing some activities here. But in order to make you understand, I'm just going to walk a little bit up here to another point where I have got good evidence to show you that things are happening here by these areas. You can see I have got the same kind of open space here with some kind of droppings. This has been done by the blue wildebeest. So the wildebeest, they are territorial and they always go back to their same spot and try to demarcate their territories. So this wildebeest, their territorial behavior is very interesting. They don't spend the whole year staying that same territory. They only come to the territory during the breeding season. After the breeding season, they will see that now the food is getting dry, is when they will start to do what they are very popular of, which is migration. But in a park like this, because there are fences, although it's a very big park, as we are part of the Kruger National Park, these animals, their territories just keep on changing according to the availability of food. So these kind of droppings here are very dark and they are very much stick together. Sometimes droppings can stick together because of the water available in the area. So wildebeest droppings, mostly you will see, is very much difficult to destroy them. They are quite very hard. They can stick together. So this is the droppings from the blue wildebeest, and it was a male. Only males, they do those kind of demarcation. So now we can go to Tristan and see what the zebras are doing on the other side.
Well, the zebras, Sydney, are feeding. Surprise, surprise. No, I'm just joking. The zebras are typical of this time of the day as well. When any animal sort of wakes up and the sun has just started to rise, you'll find that they do spend a vast majority of time. Now, I can hear some other zebras alarm calling in the distance. Just want to listen. You can see that zebra all of a sudden just turned its head to kind of face in that direction. It's obviously not too fazed by what's going on. But as most herbivores, as the sun rises, they will go and they'll try and feed, particularly a lot of the ruminating animals. Obviously, a zebra is not a ruminating animal, but still it needs to get a fair amount of nutrition. And so this is a good time for it to start feeding. As that sun comes up, it gets brighter, they can start seeing what's going on, and they start then to kind of go into these thicker areas to feed and hopefully avoid being eaten by having a bit of light to see what's going on. So that's why you'll find that they're doing as much as they are. Now, interestingly enough, these zebras are right at the base of a termite mound, so it's pretty typical to find zebras at termite mounds. and various other animals, and it's all just because the grass that grows there is more nutritious, particularly in the winter months. You're finding that there's still some nutrient value and tasty species of grass that are growing there, and so many of the animals will actually feed off the termite mounds in the next few months and even into the summer months as well. So you'll find these guys, buffalo, kudu, impalas, they all go towards the mound to actually feed. So they're not using this mound as a vantage point like the predators would use it. They're using it actually as a food source, which is quite interesting. So they seem as though they are in a situation where they're a little bit alert this morning. Every time there's any sound whatsoever, they poke their heads up and they swivel their ears and listen and try and figure out what's going on. So I wonder if maybe something wasn't lurking during the course of the night. We'll have to have a look around. Maybe we'll find some tracks at some point. But it's been really nice to have zebras back. I mean, we've had a lot more zebras than we've seen in many months that are around, at least on the property, and kind of doing their things. So it's always good to have a few of them about. They are beautiful animals, and so it's always very, very good. Right, now they've drifted off, so we're going to go around the corner and see if I can find them on the road and see if there's anything going on. Now, there's people shouting in my ear about Game Drive radio stuff, so we're going to turn them down so that I don't have to hear them anymore. Now, I do have a potential bit of sad news, which is obviously never very nice, but I got word yesterday that it sounds like all 3 cubs for Amber Eyes might have been killed by hyenas. So they think that at least 1 or 2, but they might have been all 3 were killed by hyenas, unfortunately. I'm not at all surprised, if I'm honest, because where she was keeping them is an area called the Pungwe Island. Now, Pungwe Island sits pretty much between Elephant Plains and Simambili. Now, it's a little area that is going to be the fluffiest crested barbet I've ever seen. Hold on. Look at this crested barbet on the road here, David. I've got to drop my head, but it's super fluffy. Look at it. It's got all its feathers puffed up as trying to trap some... It does look like a little tennis ball with a bit of black markings on it. A dirty tennis ball, that's what we can call it. Do you think it appreciates being called a dirty tennis ball, Louise? I don't know, maybe. Anyway, it's definitely got to be the puffiest crested barbet that I've seen in a long time. No, it probably doesn't care. You're right, Louise. But anyway, it's hopping about, trying to find food at this hour of the morning. Birds also be very active now, and you'll find that they've all puffed out because it's gotten really cold in the last hour. So it was actually quite pleasant to start off with at about 4 o'clock this morning. Well, it's 3:45, it was not too bad. And then as we approached about 6 o'clock and the sun started to show itself, the temperature just plummeted, and it's now actually very chilly. So I'm not surprised that this bird is trying to trap as much heat as possible. Absolutely beautiful birds, though. I know that they're common and we see a lot of them, particularly in the winter months. We get to see them out and about, and they really are very, very pretty, and they end up, kind of being one of those birds that you can be mesmerized by, because they're quite active. They bounce around all over the place, and to me they've got a bit of personality. I quite like them. They've kind of got this little crest and this angry face, and they're always busy with something. In fact, they would be a good character for Angry Birds, don't you think, Louise? I think so. Louise might agree with me. She's got a good imagination, but they definitely are the right... They would be a perfect little Angry Bird character. Powers? I'm not sure, Louise. I don't know. Maybe all of you can say, what powers would a crested barbet have if it was in an Angry Birds game? Now, for those of you who don't know what Angry Birds is, well, it's a game that's on phones, and basically you catapult birds at objects, and they have powers that knock things over and break things, and you have to kill all the evil pigs. And so I'm not sure what our crested barbet power would be, but maybe we can come up with one altogether. So #SafariLive, at what power you think a crested barbet would have in a virtual app called Angry Birds. They definitely have the right look about them, though. Look at that. They've got that little kind of furrowed brow. So I believe a lot of you agree that they are an Angry Birds character. They're perfect, aren't they? They're colourful. They've got this angry sort of look about them. Big, heavy-set beak. It's the perfect little bird to feature. Anyway, I'll think of a power for them at some point. Now, I know we were chatting... It's actually quite nice. There's both male and female here. So there's one that's hopping about on the ground, and then in the tree above is the other one, who's also quite puffy. So it's sitting just there, David. Yeah. So there it is. So I think that might be... Oh, very nice, David. Beautiful. You can see where they get the name from, that little crest that's kind of poking up and the red around the face and yellow. Now this one is not as vibrant in terms of its color as the one below, so it could be that it is the female. You'll find with these guys there's not too much in the way of sexual dimorphism, but they do say that the females are often a little bit drabber than the males. So the males have a bit more kind of orangey red colors that come through on the feathers. Sweet's history, you say their power would be to turn things fluffy. So would they turn the evil pigs fluffy, and then, or how would it work? Because obviously we've got to try and get rid of the evil pigs in this game, and so maybe if they turn things fluffy, then fluff would attract wind, and then the evil pigs would blow away. Maybe, I don't know. That would be a good thing to have. I don't know. I feel like that they would have. Dina, well, that's quite clever. You've used its name. So the barbet would have the power to throw barbs at you. I think it would be quite cool if, you know, their beak is the kind of this big, heavy set beak that's triangular in shape. So what happens if they send barbs, but steel barbs that kind of came out of its, and lots of them. So it would just like shoot multiple little ones at the little pigs, and then that would be how that you would get rid of them. I think that would be a cool one. That's a good one to go with. Anyway, they've flown away, so we'll carry on. But I was talking about quite sad news before that. Ali, an extra fierce battle cry. Okay, I can see it. Maybe. So does the battle cry then disorientate the pigs, or is it like a vibration that chases the pigs away? Because if that's the case, then maybe what we need to do is we need to get James Henry, who is a master of all things vocal and tone and all those kind of things, to do the fierce battle cry for us. Oh, there's another bird there, David. You see the bird of prey on top? Sorry, guys, I've got squirrel syndrome this morning. I kind of just keep jumping from one thing to another. I'll settle down eventually, but it's just nice to be out in the beautiful morning. Now, it looks like a juvenile martial eagle, which is very, very nice to see. We don't see these guys all that often, so always very, very pleasant to find martial eagles. They're such beautiful birds. They're big, powerful, and often find them kind of sitting on top of these trees and then flying down and hunting various things. And so they'll go after scrub hares, small antelope. That's their kind of most of what they will hunt. And I've actually had an incredible sighting of one of these killing a steenbok once, which was pretty crazy. So we were on Chitwa Driveway and we were watching a little steenbok, and the steenbok was pottering about as they do and wasn't really paying attention to the air. You know, they're quite twitchy normally, and so they were sort of looking around on the ground but didn't really pay attention. And out of nowhere, this whooshing sound came, and this martial eagle just clattered into the steenbok. It was pretty insane to watch, and it grabbed it on its back, and as it hit on the back, the steenbok almost folded backwards, so its kind of back legs went back towards its head, and it actually then sort of broke in half, and the spine broke, and that's how the martial eagle killed it. It was insane to see how much force it hit that poor little antelope with, and then from there it took it and went into the tree, and a marula tree like this, and then ate it for the day. It was pretty insane to see. And funny enough, very close to there, a few months later, we actually found a steenbok in the tree, and we couldn't find any evidence of a cat being there. So I wonder if it wasn't maybe the martial eagle had done it again and maybe been disturbed when we had come driving and we just didn't notice it fly off. But pretty insane to see. So they are a very, very, very sort of strong bird, and hunting all kinds of different small mammals is on the cards for these guys. Now, I say that this is a juvenile. You can see that it's got a white head on it. So these white heads, although, hold on a second, I'm not 100% sure. Yes, it is. So these white heads that you have will darken eventually. It will start to get more brown in coloration. So the martial eagle develops this brown color to the head, and then they'll get the spotted chest. And so this one has still got to get to that phase. They obviously start off as little white fluffy chicks, and then they grow, and slowly but surely that brown comes through. And I wonder if this maybe isn't the chick. There's a nest for martial eagles that is just south of Arathusa Camp, well, a little bit southwest of Arathusa Camp, and there was a chick that was in there for a long period of time, and it seems that I wonder if this is not the same one that is now kind of distributing out and that we're seeing. I know that there has been a few sightings of a juvenile martial eagle around this area in the last few months and weeks, and so I wonder if it's the same. so far away that it's difficult to make 100% sure, but it looks like a juvenile marshal. You've got to be a bit careful because you get a crowned eagle out here as well. And the juvenile... Now, I believe Sydney saw one the other day. Excellent, Louise. Well, maybe it's the same individual. There's not often a lot of juvenile marshals around. I just wanted to show you quickly, though, what I'm talking about with the crowned eagles. So you've got to be a little bit careful sometimes. Marshal eagle. Right. So, here we have the juvenile marshal eagle, which is what we're looking at the moment. Is you've got this sort of grey kind of wing structure with that white head, and you can see the little crest that that bird has got in the tree is very similar to this. It's also got that little crest, and eventually it will then change to that, which is the adult marshal eagle, so a big brown with that heavy set beak and massive talons. Now I'm going to try and find the crowned eagle. There it is. So there you go. There's the juvenile crowned eagle. You can see it looks quite similar, except that it has this more sort of rusty color around the neck area than what the marshal has, and also on the tail you've got very heavy bars that are very evident and easily seen. If you look at the marshal, you see that the bars there are very narrow and very small and far more obscured by the wings than what the crowned eagles is. Now, crowned eagles do occur here. We do see crowned eagles from time to time, except that they wouldn't be sitting in an area like this very often. Crowned eagles are more forest-dwelling birds, and so you find them mostly on the drainage lines. So if you look in the jackalberries and those kind of trees that run along those drainage lines, like the Mulwati, that's where you would expect to find a crowned eagle. Very seldom would you ever see a crowned eagle sitting out like this, whereas marshal eagles very often are in places like this. So very cool to see. Nice start to the morning. Two very, very nice bird sightings. So I'll take that. But I was saying just now that, you know, I was talking about rather sad news in the form of Amber Eyes' cubs, and I was explaining why I'm not surprised that they're gone. So where they are is in an area that's probably about 800 meters as the crow flies, which is not very far from the massive Elephant Plains Simambili hyena den that there is there. So I mean, that is very, very big, and that den is very active, and so having cubs very close to a hyena den is never the best idea, and I'm not surprised that those hyenas eventually found them. It's obviously very sad because Amber Eyes just doesn't seem to be able to get this right at the moment. She's, this is her third litter that she's had, as far as we know. We think, obviously, the first one is a bit debatable, but we know for sure that she had a second litter on Simambili, and then this now the third litter that she's had, and it just doesn't seem like she's able to quite grasp this concept and get it kind of right. But we'll see. Maybe, hopefully, one of them did survive and that she still has one or two around. Good. While we kind of head south, there's lots of buffalo tracks here, so I want to just check around and see if the buffalo are not in this area. Let's send you back across to Sydney and see what he's up to for the morning.
I've got quite a very interesting arrangement here. If you can check, you'll see there's quite a lot of branches. They are all packed here. This is what is called mattress packing. It's also called branch packing. This is one of the methods we are using in the bush in order to reclaim the lost nutrient. This area where I am, you can see it's quite a straight line going down here. It used to be an old road. What we are doing here is just to kickstart the facilitation of the process of a nutrient cycle. These branches, they've got double duty here. They've got a duty to get broken down by the insects in order to build nutrients for the soil so that the soil can be fertile for the germination of seeds when it comes to the grasses. Apart from that, the very same branches, because they are packed together, they try and help by all means to avoid animals to come here when the new growth is starting, because the new growth, soon as it starts, it attracts a lot of animals to come and eat. So this method is not that very expensive and is quite more or less the same as the natural methods of reclaiming the vegetation. No chemicals, nothing. It's just about breaking down some of the branches, and we come and lie them here so that they can be attached to the soil. Then insects can easily access these branches and break them down into pieces to bring back the nutrients again. So I was just trying to check here to see if I can find some of these tiny little insects such as the termites, but I can see that it's quite difficult to find them. I can't see them here. And apart from that, I don't want to disturb them when they're busy trying to save this area, trying to prepare this area for the germination of seeds. I can see the grasses has already started, and this kind of method has been applied here last year. So there's quite a lot of developments taking place. Now, there's not much difference between here where the branches are and on the other side. Things are happening, the method is working. So now I'm going to be walking towards the eastern side of the game reserve. But now we can go to Ralph and see what Ralph has got on the other side.
Well, everyone, I've managed to get all the way through to Biffle's Hook waterhole, and it is absolutely stunning with very moody type conditions, with the clouds around, the sun just beginning to rise. There's not a single little ripple on the water from the wind. There's an odd little bubble and so on, just a little bit of gas and stuff coming up from the bottom. But it seems Scuba Steve is out and about. He's not at home. He's obviously also feeling the cold, I would imagine, and maybe the same at Chitwa Dam. We might find that some of the hippos are still out the water there, because I would assume that the temperature inside that water is rather chilly, but with the reflections there, making for an absolutely stunning picture here. And at the moment, just hearing some birds calling around. We had a little visit from a yellow-billed hornbill. I think the guys often do little lunch stops here with their guests, and you know how sometimes where you do have tourists around, the hornbills can get quite tame, and he came and hopped around the vehicle, yeah, almost expecting a little bit of a breadcrumb to be thrown at him, but he didn't get anything, so he flew off. And so now we're just listening to some of the birds as the sun's coming up. No fresh tracks to speak of. Oh, Craig spotted something over there. Oh yes, there's a little daker. Shame I scared him off, maybe from my voice. Well spotted, Craig. What's he doing? Come down for a drink, but a little bit exposed, so they're always a little bit edgy when they're not in the thickets. Now, Bautista, you want to know when was the last time I saw a caracal or a serval? The last serval I saw was actually in the Masai Mara. It was that battle axe that had half a tail. And that was a wonderful sighting I saw in the Mara Triangle. But I haven't seen any serval on Djuma per se. And caracal, the ones that I see are all down in the Eastern Cape. So I haven't seen any here either. I haven't seen tracks of either of those either. So mostly just the little African wildcats tracks, civet, and I haven't seen any serval tracks recently. But you never know. We could always pick up some tracks of them, or could have missed the tracks, and not to say that they're not around, just that I haven't spotted any. But it is an indication that there's not lots of them around, and I would put that down to there being a lot of lions and leopards, and so the big predators do generally then make it that the smaller predators do keep themselves very secretive. And speaking of big predators, I know that they would love to eat some buffalo.
Well, indeed, I would imagine that many an animal would love to eat these buffalo, particularly our lions. But there doesn't seem to be any lions around, just a beautiful herd of buffalo, which is a welcome sight on Djuma. It's been a while since I've seen big herd of buffalo. I know they've been around for the last few days, and Sydney has had some nice sightings of them and really spent quite a bit of time. But it's nice just to kind of catch up with them in person and see them munching about. Lots of little ones also inside this herd, which is always very, very cool. Now, talking about smaller cats, this morning we actually had a sighting of a wildcat, funnily enough. So we saw a wildcat this morning. It was quite a nice little brief sighting, but it was very, very cool to see. It wasn't too unrelaxed. It kind of sat on a fire break area for us for a bit and then trotted off into the thickets, and we didn't see much of it from there. So, but it was still very nice to see a little wildcat kind of darting about. You just see them so sort of infrequently that it's always very cool to see one. In fact, I haven't seen one in probably about 2 years. It's been since I've seen a wildcat in the sand, so very pleasant to have found one of those. But the light on these buffalo this morning is absolutely beautiful. Those clouds have just parted a little bit. The sun is now just coming up, and it's really kind of that golden, beautiful light on our buffalo. And they're making hay while the sun shines, so to speak, because everybody's got their heads down and feeding, and everyone's kind of concentrating on filling up those bellies before the sun gets too high, and they then have to find a place to go and ruminate. So just topping everything up. Also, during the course of the night, they would have ruminated quite a lot and processed a lot of that food. Dizzy Lizzy, no. So, I mean, I suppose migration is a movement from one area to another due to conditions. So I suppose they are a mobile herd. They're not really a migrating herd, though. So we don't have a migration of buffalo that happens within the Kruger system. What happens with buffalo, though, is as winter periods come, so it becomes harder to find food and water. And so, they have to then move slightly bigger areas in order to find it. But you'll find that these herds, I mean, there used to be herds throughout the summer months before the drought, but the drought then hits buffalo quite hard, and we didn't see too many of them for a while. And so these herds are maybe just repopulating these areas. So it's not so much a migratory herd. I suppose it's in a way can be considered a small migration in that they are moving in order to find better resources, but they'll still go back the same way that they came today if they had to go and find water somewhere else. So they're not really migrating in a certain direction. So it's not like in Kenya where they're going from Tanzania up into Kenya to try and make use of the water resources and the grazing. Here they're in a situation where they do much more kind of circular movements, but very, very small and confined. So they're not going across countries or massive boundaries. They're just going short sort of periods. They're going maybe 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers. It's not very far at all for them. So, it's not a huge migration, but there is a movement due to resources. So I suppose it can be referred to as I don't know, what would you call it? A mini migration. But it's not deemed a migration because they're not actually kind of going to one source and to another. They literally moving in all directions as they go, and wherever they find grass and water, they spend a bit of time and then go back the opposite way again. So it's kind of a circular movement that they have. But what you'll find with buffalo is interesting. I find with these herds is once they find an area that they can find food. There's a yellow-billed oxpecker too. You see this buffalo closest to us? So there's a yellow-billed oxpecker, which is quite nice. They're not the common oxpecker that we see here. I'll get back into the buffalo story now, but we don't see these guys very often at all. And you can see it's characterized by that bright, bright yellow beak, the little red tip to it. So very cool to see. They are birds that we generally only see a little bit further north of us in the Kruger Park system. There's not too many down south here. So if you find a herd of buffalo, sometimes you will find these guys on them. Very nice. Good. But what I was saying with the buffalo, what I've noticed is that you'll often find buffalo in Savi Sands section will come in, they'll feed and do their thing, go to water, and then they backtrack on the exact same tracks to a certain point. Then they go and get food and water there, and then they come back again, and they use a very similar movement, unless, of course, lions chase them, which obviously then changes the pattern of the movement. Shame, that poor calf. Look, David, you see one of the oxpeckers has pooed on it. Look on its hip. Oh no, that's not a good morning when you get pooed on by an oxpecker. That's naughty oxpecker. You're not allowed to poo on the poor buffalo. You can eat it, but you're not allowed to poo on it. It is supposed to be good luck to be pooed on by a bird. So maybe that buffalo has got a reprieve from the next lion attack that comes this herd's way. But I'm not going to lie, Louise, if you've ever been pooed on by a bird, it doesn't feel lucky, does it? I mean, it might be lucky, but it certainly doesn't feel lucky when you get pooed on. You've never felt lucky after being pooed on by a bird. Yes, you see, Louise, this is what I say, is whoever came up with that story was just trying to make someone feel better. I feel like that was some mom that didn't want their child to cry, and they came up with the story that being pooed on is lucky, because really I don't think it can be very lucky. And now I'm actually looking around. There are multiple buffalo that are sporting some little poo wounds at the moment. So there was one that came past just now with some poo on its horns, and I think I saw another one just now as well that had. So these poor buffalo are being assaulted by poo from a bird at the moment. Not ideal. Suppose, though, the oxpeckers have earned their right to poo on buffalo. Floor, yes, most definitely leopards would prey on young buffalo. There used to be a male, there still is a male leopard alive in the western and central parts of the Sabi Sands called the Kashan male, and he used to go into herds and pluck off little baby buffalo from time to time and hoist them up into trees. The thing is with it is that it is very, very dangerous to go into herds like this and try and grab baby buffalo, and so you find leopards generally shy away from it because there's easier food to catch than a buffalo herd. Where leopards will go into buffalo and catch little young buffalo is when a buffalo gives birth. It often separates itself from the herd, and it will then give birth, and that calf is vulnerable for a few minutes, and then you find a leopard will run in and grab it, or they give birth to stillborns, and then you find leopards grab the stillborns and put them up into the tree. So they do feed off buffalo from time to time, and they will sometimes hunt buffalo, but it is very seldom. And like I say, obviously buffalo is a very dangerous animal, and leopards need to be a bit careful. Good. Now we'll keep up with our buffalo for a bit. Looks like they're going to maybe go down towards Treehouse Dam area. They did come from that side, so maybe they're going to go have a morning drink. So we'll see how that goes. But while we do that, let's send you back across to Ralph and a feathered friend.
Well, everyone, we're just being serenaded by this little white-browed scrub robin. And, the robins being the true songbirds. Oh, and of course, there he goes, but we can still hear him calling. And now we've got some of the green woodoopoos that have pitched up in the tree as well. And they're rather pretty there, but we can still hear the scrub robin calling. And they're one of the most variable of all the songbirds as well. Not always using the same little call. So actually quite difficult to identify the white-browed scrub robin just from his call, because he sings so many different little melodies. But a true songbird in that he's got a real melody that he runs through, as opposed to just random calls. And there's the squirrel. It looks like little babies, and I think he's trying to get warm on the side of this dead tree. Looks like possibly a knobthorn. And there were quite a few different birds now, all having pitched up and trying to keep warm. And the squirrels have obviously made this their little home. And there were one or two running around. Now that one seems to really be trying to warm up. It's like biting his own tail. Really curled into a little ball there. So you can see that I'm not lying, that it is chilly this morning. The birds and the squirrels and everybody trying to get warm. It's looking very fluffy and cute, eh? Louise in FC saying that's how she felt when she woke up. Yeah, that's how I feel right now. I'm trying to really get all the layers going. When we're driving around, the wind is very cold, so I've actually been taking it quite a bit slower than usual because of that wind chill factor. Really biting through. And the little squirrel really trying to get the sun. He's probably egging the sun on. Come on, warm me up. Night hasn't slept very much because it's been so cold. And now that it's warming up a bit, he might actually go. You can see he's quite snoozy, hey? His eyes seem to be heavy, his eyelids. And very cute to watch this little guy. I don't often get to see the squirrels actually sitting still. And this one just trying to tuck himself into his tail and really waiting for that sun to get up. And often those first couple of hours the sun gets up, it's actually even colder than when it was dark, because of that whole pressure change and the hot air rising, being replaced by the cold air coming in to go underneath it. But, well, the little squirrel needs to hang tight and use all his available tools, which is obviously the best one being his tail. And now going for a little snooze there. It looks like. It's a magical little spot that we're in here now, and still being serenaded by the white-browed scrub robin. Very nice. Now, Julian, you say that these squirrels that we have here are way cuter than the ones in the US. I see that, I think it's like the red squirrel. They've got it's almost like a crest on their head. They look a little bit like they've got a mohawk. But I like those ones as well. We can't discriminate between the squirrels. We shouldn't do that, should we? But I think if it was cold in the US, they'd probably also try to tuck themselves in and get warm, like this one is doing. And quite often at camp where we are, I see the little squirrels coming to an outside area where we sit near the parking lot and moving in there with some nuts and things that they've obviously stolen from the kitchen area and coming and caching it or burying it in the sand. And the other day I watched one busy burying something, and I went on over there and I found it was a pecan nut that he had obviously stolen from the kitchen. And off he went, obviously in search to go and get some more. And I wonder how many of those little cache sites they actually have. And quite interesting, because I think that they probably forget about a lot of them. So in the wild, in the natural sort of, where obviously not pecan nuts, but with the marula kernels, etc., I'm sure that they cache and dig in lots of different nuts and natural fruits, etc., and then forget about it, and that would then result in a tree being planted by the little squirrels. So I think they do perform quite a good planting function out here in the wild, with them caching all sorts of nuts all over the place and then forgetting all the spots where they put them. And that's quite important, I would say, the forgetfulness of squirrels. Well, that's it. I think we're going to move on and leave this little squirrel to his nap. Hopefully he gets warm quite soon. I'm going to head to Chitwa Chitwa.
I found something very much interesting here in the area. Not long time ago, I picked up some fresh tracks punctuated with some of the drag marks. And I tried to follow these tracks and follow the tracks, but now I can only see this track here. This animal was dragging something like a snake. And then I investigated and follow up until I got to the burrows, where I confirmed that this was the honey badger. So the honey badger dragged something. To me, it looks like a big snake. So I managed to find where these honey badgers are hiding. I just want to show you. Let's go. It's quite a lovely place here where these honey badgers are hiding. But there's too many holes. It's difficult to tell which holes they are using because they are all very active. Oh, here I found something interesting. There's even some of the urine left this morning is still very much wet. Yes, I'm just waiting for Senzo, my photographer, to come nice and close so that you can have a good sighting.
As long as there's no snake.
Yeah. Now, if there's a snake, it's a dead snake. You know, honey badgers and snakes, they don't get along. I've got some very nice urine here showing that these honey badgers were out here and they came back early this morning. You can see there is nice and wet. The soil here is very much dry. So that drag mark is showing that the honey badger caught a snake. Not too sure what kind of snake it is, but it looks like it's quite a very big snake because it was a huge drag mark. So honey badgers and snakes, they are not friends. And these honey badgers, they are kind of venomous resistant. When they are bitten by a snake, they are not going to die. They will wake up again and carry on fighting or carry on looking for what they are looking for. So now we won't be able to see this honey badger here. It's hiding, but I can see that this honey badger, where it's hiding, is very much active. There's quite a lot of things showing that this honey badger is staying here. Yes, I didn't get the name of the viewer, but here what I'm seeing now is that this honey badger grabbed that whole snake. Possibilities of the honey badger to eat the whole snake are very much high, because I cannot see any of the piece left out. It means this honey badger dragged that whole snake deep under the ground. Quite a very small animal, but very much aggressive. The honey badgers can be very much aggressive. Ellie, I'm not too sure when it comes to the animals which can be able to predate the honey badger. Killing a honey badger is quite a very big mission. These kind of animals can be very much aggressive. They are not afraid of anything. Yeah, this hole where I am, it seems to be very much active. So it means now the honey badgers are sleeping, hiding in this area. But I can see there's quite a lot of different holes. It's showing that here there is where they're staying. I don't know how many in these holes, but there's just holes everywhere. So now we can go to Tristan and see what the buffaloes are doing on the other side.
Well, my buffalo are showing a very interesting situation. So, David, if you can just go back to where you came from with that little one suckling. So, unusual for antelope species, but something that buffalo do regularly is suckle from between the mother's legs. Now, we often talk about it, but very seldom do we see it, but there's a perfect example of how it works. So, essentially with buffalo, because they're herd animals and they move quite a bit, you'll find that for the mother to stop and suckle her young, because if she had to have the young suckling from the side of her like most animals do, it means that the animal has to stop. Now you can watch what happens here. You see how as mom walks, the little baby can keep suckling. Normally they would have to stop and the baby would come from the side and suckle from between the mother's front and back legs. Now the problem with that would mean that this buffalo would have to stop. It would then separate from the herd, and we know things like lions, and as we were discussing just now, leopards will often try and take little babies and those kind of things from the fringes of the herd. So it puts the mother and the baby at a lot more risk. And so what it can do now is if it suckles from between the legs, his mom can keep within the herd and the baby can still get the nutrients it needs while moving along. It's very, very cool to see, and you only rarely see it from buffalo. I've not seen it on any of the other antelope, but buffalo are the ones that do it quite regularly. What's interesting though is that they will sometimes, if the herd is sleeping, and so a lot of animals are lying down, then the young ones do sometimes suckle from the side. They don't only suckle from the back, but if the herd is mobile like it is now, and they're kind of moving and feeding, then you find the little babies suckle from behind. Now, I would imagine it would be not a very pleasant place to be, because buffalo, well, they defecate quite a bit, and if you're a baby, you're in firing line, not only from birds, but from your mom too. So I think it's a bit of danger that is kind of associated with suckling from behind. As much as it keeps you safe from lions, it's not ideal for if mom decides to just lift her tail and defecate. But very cool to see. You can see, look how it's nudging to try and stimulate the milk flow. Now that little one is getting quite big now, so I don't know how much milk it's actually getting. It's probably drinking far more than what mom is actually producing at this stage. And you'll find that these guys, it almost looks like she might even be starting to get pregnant again. You see that? Her tummy is very, very round. Interesting. It's quite strange, actually. So not often that you see that. I'm just trying to work out if she is pregnant. I was just looking at some of the other females. She definitely has a much more swollen stomach than some of the others do. Maybe that's why there's not much milk coming out. Yes, Louise, if she's not pregnant, she has let herself go a little bit. But, you know, it's okay. It is winter, and one needs an extra layer in the winter months to stay nice and warm, so we can't blame her if she's let herself go a little bit. She's also a nursing mom, and so, you know, she's got a lot of other things to worry about than just keeping fit. It's also, I suppose, a situation where there's not many lions around on Djuma keeping them fit, so she's happy to you know, let herself go a little bit for her winter vacation on Djuma. Well, can you imagine if that was the case? It would be nice if lions actually did come back to Djuma. It would be a very pleasant surprise. I know yesterday we had lions and we saw an epic hunt, but it wasn't really deep into Djuma. It was right on the boundary. So it would be nice if we had lions deep in Djuma and actually spend some time. I actually just heard lions calling now, but they are not on Djuma, I'm afraid. They are very far away, it sounds like, in Torchwood or Buffelshoek somewhere that they're calling from. I would imagine it's the Evoker boys that are shouting the odds as the sun rose. But very cool to see these buffalo. Like I said, it's always a welcome sight. They're still milling around feeding. They're not really kind of going anywhere. It's just going around in circles. They went south and then they've come back north. Now they're slowly going in an easterly direction and back north again. So more than anything, I think they're just trying to find food and kind of enjoying a bit of warmth that's coming up from the sun, as David and I are doing as well. David, it's nice to have the sun on you, isn't it? Yes. Very nice, very, very pleasant. I'm quite excited that Sydney found an active honey badger den. That's pretty cool, and maybe that explains why we've been seeing so many honey badgers lately and why they've been around. Maybe the one that's been seen on the dam cam is the one that has the den close by. And I was having a bit of a laugh at Senzo with the whole snake story, that he was too scared to go near the hole. It's typical of Senzo. I think one day we're going to say it's fine. One day we're going to say it's fine, and a snake is going to come flying out there, and that's going to be the end of our trust relationship. Senzo will never trust us ever again. But I don't think he has much to worry about. If there's honey badgers there, then that snake is most definitely not breathing anymore, I don't think. I think it's probably in the stomach of a snake as we speak. And talking about sort of honey badgers and snakes, they are insanely good hunters of snakes, and they often kill quite big snakes. And I remember seeing down at Lion Sands, we had a situation where we had a honey badger kill python 3 different times, on 3 different occasions, twice in the Sand River, once in the Sabi River. And the one python that was killed by the honey badger was, I would say, must have been about 3.5, 4 meters. So that honey badger, it was dwarfed by this python, and yet somehow it managed to kill it, and then it dragged it through the Sand River, and it was quite a crazy scene, because there was this honey badger, this massive long python that was stretched out across the length of the river, and then there was this blood trail kind of coming from this python. It was quite an odd scene and a strange one. So, they do go after rather large snakes. Obviously, it didn't actually end up eating much of it because of the fact that it got stolen by hyenas. But, they do kill big snakes. And the other time there was a big snake killed by honey badgers was actually on Simambili. And Tingana, funnily enough, was the individual that then went and scavenged off it. So the honey badger itself killed the python. And we all thought it was a leopard at first. And then the track said honey badger. And so we put a camera trap up at this dead python, and you found a situation where the honey badger actually came in at night and fed off it until Tingana arrived. And once Tingana arrived, he then took over, and the honey badger left, and he then ate it. And it was a very, very large snake that honey badger managed to kill. So they can kill big snakes, and they can go after rather large pythons, which is a bit of a shame, because large pythons are obviously a rarity these days. You don't get to see too many of them. But reptiles do sometimes get their own back, and I'm trying to find a picture that I saw the other day, which give me 2 seconds, because it was very, very, very interesting, which involved a honey badger. Now, where did I save it? I saved it somewhere, but I can't seem to find it at this stage. There it is. So this was taken in the Kruger Park recently, and it was a reptile getting its own back. Now, sorry, David, I know we've got the sun against us, which is going to make life very difficult. I don't know if you guys can see that, but essentially what we've got there is a crocodile that's grabbed a honey badger and actually ate the honey badger. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you this picture properly now. I'm going to just turn the car because with the sun being the way it is, David's really struggling. So hold on, David. Let's turn the car a little bit, because if we just angle the car a little bit to the left-hand side, we'll be able to see it absolutely perfectly. But essentially what happened is a badger came down to drink, apparently, and we had a situation where the crocodile was lying in wait, and as that honey badger sort of tried to drink, this crocodile ended up grabbing it and eating it. So pretty insane kind of sighting. Is that better, David? Should be much better. But there you go. So there is a massive crocodile and a honey badger stuck in its mouth, which is pretty insane. Is that not the most ridiculous sighting? That poor honey badger unfortunately got by the head, so I don't think that little guy was going to survive. As Sydney said, it takes a lot to kill a honey badger, and well, a big crocodile, I suppose, is what you need to find. So good meal for the crocodile, I suppose, though. Right, I'm going to carry on. I think I'm going to leave the buffalo now. I'll just do a loop around them, see if maybe there's any sign of lions following them. While I do that, let's send you back across to Sydney, who has found himself some stripy horses.
A zebra walking together with a lot of impalas. Just one zebra. Interesting. Very rare to see this happening. So this might be maybe about safety in numbers. Animals, they depend on each other on a lot of things. Some of the animals have got good eyesight, whereas some of the animals has got bad eyesight, and some has got good sense of smell, whereas some has got bad sense of smell. So this zebra is together with the impalas. But I'm sure this is about the safety of this zebra. Not because impalas can fight against the predators, but just to get the updates with regards to what is happening in the surrounding when it comes to the predation activities. So zebras, they can easily defend themselves against the predators. They can kick very nicely. They have got one solid hoof. And their kick and turn mechanism is interesting. When they're turning to the left, they kick to the right. When they're turning to the right, they kick to the left. So the interesting part when it comes to the zebra is that it's very much difficult to tell the difference between the male and the females. But how I distinguish between the two, I check mostly the line underneath their tails. So the males, they have got a thin line under the tail, and the females, they have got a broad line under the tail. It's just that it's very much difficult to see that because you cannot lift up that tail. Otherwise, that zebra is going to kick you hard. So they can kick to death. And zebras, they've got very good mouth structure, and they can be able to bite. Some of them, they even lose tails when they're fighting. Sometimes zebras, they fight upright standing. I have got a question from Sweet History, how the zebras help the ecosystem. Zebras are one of the animals feeding on tall grass. You can see this grass that I'm showing here. These are all tall grass. So animals such as zebras are very much important when it comes to the ecosystem. So they've got to come and eat the tall grass first. Behind the zebras, mostly you'll see other animals who are depending on the shorter grass. Let me just give you a very good example. Zebras and blue wildebeest, they have been seen together walking on several occasions simply because their dependency is based on the predators and is also based on the type of food these animals are having. Zebras prefers tall grass, whereas the wildebeest prefers short grass. In other words, if we don't have animals such as the zebras, the grasses are just going to grow too much, and there's something called moribund. Moribund are just the old dead material from the previous rainy season. Once the moribund is growing, then it means the chances of the grass to suffocate is very high. So zebras are needed in order to control those kind of problems. So I'm going to now carry on and try to see if I can find other animals, interesting animals in this area. I have got something very interesting again. Oh, I'm so lucky this morning to find that there's two here. I know it's difficult to get this insect out. I'm not sure if it's here or is there. This is what is called the antlion. So the antlion is setting up this trap in order to catch the ants. Ants is what the antlion eats. To those who have never seen an antlion before, it's this animal which has got the mandible parts like this. The antlion, you will see, it's a very small insect and it's got the mandibular parts like this. He uses this in order to catch the ants, but he doesn't chew the ants. He's just going to catch and bring closer to the mouth, absorb the sip and throw away the chitin. He cannot eat that chitin until he is matured. He must have to go through different stages of the life cycle. At the end is when he can be able to eat when he's ready to digest. But at this stage, when he's still doing the larva stage, it's difficult. He cannot eat anything like a chitin. The life cycle of the antlion is one of the interesting life cycles. These insects, they come from the egg and they do the larva stage. This larva stage takes about 3 years. And after these 3 years, he's going to do the pupa stage, where he's going to come out and collect the soil and develop a ball just like a dung beetle. After that, you will see he's going to bear wings and fly. Then he becomes a dragonfly. So now, I want to show you something that I am doing. This is part of my traditional practice. I come from Venda, and there we are doing quite a lot of traditional things. We normally take this antlion, we get him out, and then we use the antlion, we take it and rub it here. We take it to the newborns. When we get the newborns, for them to grow the teeth, we believe that the mandibles of the antlion serve for growing the teeth of the youngsters. We take the antlion and we rub it against the top here by the gums and also here at the bottom. And that helps in order to facilitate the process of growing the teeth very quickly to the youngsters. And it works. It was done to me as well. So that is what we are using. I've got all these teeth as a result of the antlion. So this animal is so very helpful to some of the African tribes here. So let's see if we're going to find some of the things. Maybe I'm going to come across the antlion again. So now let's go to a tree stand and see if there is any development where the buffaloes are spotted.
Well, Sydney, no, nothing yet. I can't find any sign of any lurking, tawny cats that might be behind these buffaloes. So far, it looks like the buffalo have enjoyed a rather peaceful night and didn't have to worry too much about any potential dangers. I'm just kind of checking around as I go and just seeing if maybe there was something following them from where they came. They came obviously from the dam side, so Gowrie Dam, through past Twin Dams, and then down to Treehouse, well, onto Twin Dams Road, Weaver's Nest, Treehouse, and then kind of further west from there. So if there's anything that was going to follow them, it was going to come from the northern side and down, and so far we haven't seen many signs of anything. We also know that the Talamatis were found inside Buffelshoek, but apparently there's only 4 of them there this morning, so not all of them together, and it sounds like 2 of the Evoca boys are in Coral going north, and the other one is at Big Dam on Buffelshoek. So there's a bit of movement, at least between all of the lines. The other nice bit of news is that it seems, why are you all on your own? So there's a female impala here. I only see her by herself. Oh no, there's another one there. There's a little young male. that's also in that area. I thought it was just a female on her own, and that's very seldom would you see a female impala by herself. They obviously try and be in herds as much as possible, and sometimes if you see one by itself, or even a small grouping like this, it might be a sign that wild dogs have been around. They often split herds apart, and you get these fragmented groupings. But I was saying that there's a nice surprise that, well, there's something that's coming our way, hopefully during the course of today or maybe tomorrow morning. But the cheetah family, the female cheetah and her 2 cubs, are on Arethusa airstrip this morning, and moving northwards apparently. So that's really good news. I'm hoping that they come across. I would really like to see them, so I'm really hoping that they're going to move in this direction. But alas, no sign of any lions, that's for sure, walking this way, as there are no signs of any leopards on our western front either. Seems as though Hukamuri and Shadulu are still in the west. James, no, we're not seeing the jackal pair. I haven't seen them for the last few days, unfortunately. To be honest, I haven't spent much time on quarantine for the drone testing. I kind of just drove past there very briefly this morning on the eastern side. I didn't check the western side. So I haven't seen them for a few days, if I'm honest. And the last tracks I had of them, actually, was coming down Philemon's and then coming towards sort of Treehouse Dam area, that fire break section. That's the last tracks I had of them, which was, when did I do bushwalk? Yesterday morning? So there's tracks of them yesterday morning coming that way. I mean, they could have obviously just gone for a little walk around to try and see what's going on, and then they'll come back again. But for now, it seems as though they might have moved off quarantine. But I'll keep checking. Last night I heard the wildebeest alarm calling, and I was actually on my way to camp, and I looked around and there was no sign of any leopard or anything like that. And so maybe it was the jackals that were running around causing a bit of a stir. That would make a bit of sense, although I suppose hyenas also could have been making the wildebeest a bit nervous. But it would be nice if they came back. It's always nice to have a pair of jackals around, because you kind of hope that they're going to end up denning somewhere close by and having little ones. Remember that pair that we had on Arethusa airstrip? So James, you'll fondly remember those. They were very, very cool. We used to go there and have some great sightings of them running around all over the place and doing their thing. So hopefully we can get a situation where we get that again. And I actually wonder if maybe those jackals might be the same ones from Arethusa airstrip. You might have a situation where they were displaced by something else, so maybe a predator chased them off and they then came and spent some time here. Right, now we're at Treehouse Dam, and there you can see it is quite barren and quite quiet. What is amazing me is that last year we had obviously a dry period and a dry summer, and Treehouse Dam had more water last year than it does this year, that's for sure. So this is drier than I've seen it since summer of last year. It's really dropped quite a bit, and you can actually see that the buffalo were here last night, and I would imagine that those buffalo, given how many there are of them, you can actually see on the dam there's tracks all the way around the dam now that I look at it, and they must have drank quite a bit out of this area last night. They must have taken a lot. You can see all of those little pit marks are hooves of buffalo, and the buffalo actually went all the way around, so they must have encircled this entire pan. Wouldn't have been surprised if many of them even went inside, but it really is very, very low, and I'll tell you why I know it's low. If you have a look down on this bottom left corner here, so you'll see that there is a whole bunch of branches in the shadow. Now, that was an area where was it August? I think it was August, where we had Shadow actually drinking, and she was drinking on the left side of those broken branches, and she was drinking water from there. So you can see it's a good 3 meters almost to the water edge now from where she was drinking later in the year last year. So it just goes to show you that we are still very dry, and that this pan and twin dams, and obviously the Gari Dam is completely dry, that they're going to end up being probably quite small puddles by the end of this winter. You know, we're only in July now. There's still a long time to go until the rains would theoretically come in September, October, and so it's going to be very interesting to see how well these dams cope with the next sort of 2.5 months, and it'll be very dependent on how many buffalo we get and how many elephants we get, because both of those will basically utilize these resources in a very quick manner. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Hopefully, though, we get a situation where we get really good rains this summer, and it can kind of just fix all these water points. Kalina, before we go, you're asking, why is it called Treehouse Dam? Well, in the tree over there, so the marula tree, no, one to the left, the big one to the left of that. Keep going, David. Keep going. Right, that one there, straight in the middle. So that tree over there, there used to be a little treehouse platform that was built. And actually, if you look carefully, I don't know, Dave, can you go in a little bit tighter there? Sometimes you can see it. There's little bits of wood that are still hanging and still in the tree itself. Go down a little bit for me. Down. There. No, a little bit up. Sorry, David. There in the middle, you can see a plank that actually goes across the tree from one side to another. So on that left sort of side of the frame, going from the one branch to the other branch is a plank. And so that's where the treehouse was built. Now that treehouse was built way back when there used to be hunters in these areas. And the hunting farm basically meant that this water point, because treehouse is built in an area where there's a natural spring, is that a lot of animals used to congregate here. And so that treehouse is where they used to sit in a blind to be able to then hunt from it. So that's basically what it is and why it was called Treehouse Pan. Like I say, that was a very long time ago, and thankfully no reason for them to hunt here anymore. And so the treehouse, most of it was broken down and taken away, but there's still one or two little planks that are left there just to kind of, I suppose, commemorate what's going on and just sort of tell a bit of a story as to the history of these areas. And can you imagine if we never had sort of, what would you call it, individuals with a bit of foresight and individuals that really had a passion for nature that didn't change these areas. So people like Yuri that have made these into places where there's no longer hunting. Would we have these animals here? Would there still be this density? Probably not. So pretty interesting kind of situation. Right, well, we're going to, I think, head off towards the Mulwati because there's no sign of anything following these buffalo, and try and see if we can pick up Tingana's tracks. While we do that, let's send you back across to Sydney. I wonder what his plans are, though, for the rest of the morning.
I have got something here on the ground, and it's confusing a little bit because here where I am under the tamboti tree, but the seeds on the ground I have got is from a different plant, which means some of these animals brought these seeds here. So the stem that we are seeing here, this one, is a stem from the tamboti. And right here, I have got some of the dig marks. You can see there, and also somewhere here. So these marks has been done by the porcupine. So porcupines, they easily become the biggest threat of the tamboti trees. They like to come and debug these trees. And if you can check, they normally take off the bark around the tree and they cut the communication between the bottom and the top part. Once that skin is taken off, chances of the tree to die are very much high. So porcupines, they like this tree. Tamboti tree is one of the very popular poisonous trees. And animals, they use these tambotis for quite a lot of different things. Some, they use this tree for a diet, and some of them, they use it for medicinal reason, just to try and get rid of the internal parasites. Animals such as black rhinos, they come and eat here for a diet. And animals such as giraffes and kudus, they don't eat here very often. They come when experiencing the internal problems. So now, let's get back to the seed here, as we saw it earlier. Who might have brought this seed here? Presumably, this was the squirrel, because the squirrels, they like to eat this. So this is a seed which is coming from the marula tree. You can see some of these seeds, they've got they've got two holes. These two holes is where we get the seed kernel from. So you can see so we get some of the nice thing coming from there. So now I want to tell you how people are making the marula beer from the marula fruit. It's quite a very interesting process. What we do in order to make the amarula beer from this fruit is that we go to the field and we collect the amarulas. We bring the amarulas and then we leave them so that they can all become very ripe After that, we are going to have a group of elders, and the elders will come and sit there, and they will have some forks, and they peel the bark from the fruit, and we take all these seeds, we put them together in a bucket. And then we have to now go to that bucket and leave them there for a while. And after that, we are going to take all the flesh from this, the seed, in order to have the seed clean like this. And all the flesh is the one that makes the beer. After that, we leave that Amarula beer in a bucket for a while. When it's about 2-3 days is when it's like a juice. Anybody can drink it. But after that, it becomes sour and it gets fermented and becomes very strong. And those that ones, the dangerous one, the one that is so very much hot, that one you're going to have to leave it for a couple of days. Some, they can even go up to some weeks. So that is how you make the marula beer from the marula fruit. So I'm just going to walk here and try to find some of these interesting things here in the wild. So now we can go to Tristan. Tristan is driving, and see if Tristan has got something on the other side.
No, nothing just yet. Sydney was just driving and having a little scratch around, trying to see if Tingana's footprints have been left somewhere that we can try and follow and find the Duke and see how he's doing. I was very surprised to see his pictures of him yesterday. His ear looks a lot better, doesn't it? His ear looks as though it's perking up and it's looking a lot more sprightly than he was a few days ago. So it just goes to show how quickly these guys recover, and that sometimes these really bad limps, they look far worse than they really are, and after a few days they can kind of come right quite fast. But I was just thinking now about Sydney and his marula beer and how strong it can be. Marula beer is a funny thing. I personally am not a huge fan of it. I find it very sweet and a bit, I don't know, it's not my cup of tea, but it is potent stuff. It can be quite something if you drink too much of it, and if you definitely indulge a little too much, the following morning you are going to know all about it, because your head is going to feel as though it's about to pop every 5 seconds as it pulses its way through the morning. So not a very pleasant experience in my opinion, but something that I suppose if you try a little bit, it's always nice to try different things, but I wouldn't drink too much of it, as a word of warning. Not something you want to get too sort of deep into. I think you're going to regret if you have more than just the odd little sip here and there. David, have you had marula beer? You have. This is a travesty of justice. We need to make you some marula beer, David. We need to sort you out and try and make you some so you can try it and see what you think. I know that last year we were going to make some. I can't remember what happened. Jeandre was, of all people, was going to make it, and then I think the marulas just didn't really ripen properly, and we didn't have as many marulas as we normally do, and so I think that was the situation, is that Jeandre just couldn't get them to they weren't at the state that he wanted them, and so that's why we didn't make it. But we'll try and make it this year and get all those who haven't tried it to try some. Louise, have you tried it? I wonder if Louise has tried it. So you tried some that James made. Okay, well, as much as I think James makes a good marula beer, we need to get you some real good stuff from the local communities. That's the stuff that you got to try. It's actually quite amazing to watch them make it, because you'll find ladies will sit in the community. Oh, hello, Kudu. We'll have a look at the kudu while I talk about this. But you'll find the ladies will sit in the community with these massive tubs of marulas that are all still obviously just been collected, and then they sit there and they peel them all off. So basically they cut the top and then they squeeze them into another bucket, and so you get all this flesh and juice and everything that goes into this bucket, and then from there they process it all out and they basically make this brew, and then only right at the end do they actually filter out all the seeds and everything else. But it's kind of a massive process to watch it in action, and when they make these marula beers, it's often very big quantities at one time, and then they siphon it all off into smaller little bottles that they then sort of sell to one another and those kind of things. So it's an amazing thing to actually go and watch it all take place. But it's potent stuff if it's been kind of brewing for quite some time. It can be quite lethal. Now, beautiful to have a few kudu around as well. I haven't seen many lately. It's, in winter months we often see a lot of them because the bush gets a little bit drier. Yes, Louise, you're right. It's beautiful to have a few animals around. It's been I suppose we actually have had a productive morning, though. We've had birds, we've had zebra, we've had buffalo, we've had kudu. So we actually haven't been too badly off this morning. We've seen quite a few things that's been going on around us. It seems as though Treehouse Dam area has been a popular place for many of our antelopes and hoofed animals this morning. But isn't that light beautiful on these guys? And you can see they're very relaxed. I mean, they obviously were quite close to the road and they trotted off a little bit when we came along, but they're quite chilled now and just kind of ambling along in the dry wintry grass. And then you see they're looking down in the grass quite a bit, so they're looking for new growth of small little trees that they can feed off. Chitty Chatty Meg, I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know, actually. I'm not sure if all hoofed animals have a cleft palate. I will have to research it for you and let you know, but I honestly have no idea. Maybe Ralph or Sydney will know, but I don't, and it will have to be a bit of research that I will have to do in order to double check if all hoofed animals do, because obviously hoofed animals is a massive amount or massive grouping of animals in the world. So while I have a little look and see if I can find any information on that, let's send you back across to Sydney with the kudu's cousin.
Just trying to see what animal is that. Oh, it's the nyala, and that is, it's just two of them, young male nyalas. So nyalas are one of the very interesting animals. These animals, but we can only see one from here where we are, but where I'm standing I can see one of them is on the far right. So now these nyalas, sometimes you will see them, they walk together with they go together with baboons and monkeys, because they also eat some of the fruits. When the baboons are feeding up and monkeys by these trees, you will see them underneath them when trying to get hold of something to eat. So they also depend on those kind of primates. So by primates, I'm just talking about those animals which has got upright standing, opposable stump, and a binocular vision. So nyalas, the males carry horns and females don't carry horns. Look at that tail. It has got a very bushy tail. So the color of the tail on the outside is not the same as the inner side. So the inner side of these tails is very fluffy bright. Females, they've got a tawny color and they look completely different from the males. So the nyalas, they're browsing there now. So browsers are just those animals that feed on leaves. Both of them, male and females, they have got stripes. But the males, they have got less stripes than the females. Male and females, they have got large ears. But if you can check, these animals that browse, a lot of them has got big ears. They are very much relaxed at the moment. It means in the area here, they are not threatened by anything. So these males, they can weigh up to 88 kilograms. I was just trying to check if maybe there's something around here, but I can see it's very quiet. The mood of the animal is telling me that nothing is happening. But I don't have to believe in that, because predators as well, when they come to these animals, they hide. So now let's go to Tristan and see what Tristan has got on the other side.
Well, everyone, we've come out onto Torchwood, and we've come to where Thandi was with her kill. But she's obviously been chased off by hyenas. Now, we're busy watching a hyena here behind us. I might shift in a moment just to get us a better view. But this one here has now just been devouring the last little leftovers. There looks like some bones there. It was busy eating on the stomach contents. There was also some legs left and busy crunching on those bones there. Look, little pieces. So I think Thandi and Tlalamba have been chased off by the hyenas, and this one has now come in. I was busy trying to find her and the carcass, and I could just smell something a little bit pungent. Oh. And so I was driving around it, and then we spotted the hyena, and it was on its way in. So we said, let's follow the hyena. Usually lead you towards where there's food, and of course that's exactly what it did. And now having a nice little feed there. Sorry if there's any breakup on the picture or the sound. We are out here on Torchwood, and sometimes the signal isn't great, but nonetheless we're sitting with a hyena just scrounging around, getting the last little bit leftovers of that Steenbok kill that Thandi had yesterday. Now it's just moving. You might see the aerial and so on at the back there because it's straight directly behind us, but it's been moving around quite a lot, so we just want to wait and see what it does before I try to reposition. But there now it's coming back to the good side for us. There we go. Now, are Laura Moore? That's a good question. I think Thandi maybe didn't hoist it, or maybe she did initially hoist her kill. But what I've seen is she seems to bring it back down on the ground so that Tlalamba can have a decent feed on it. But that does then expose her to hyenas. And maybe she just got caught off guard, because I've seen her, when the hyenas move in, very quickly grab her prize and head up a tree, and then when they move off, then she brings it back down. But it's a risky game because yes, she might be having her head down, busy feeding or communicating with Tlalamba or whatever, and miss that the hyenas are on their way in, and then well, a second can count a lot out here, and if she just misses that little gap she has, well, then they're in and they'll grab the meat and run with it. So I think that's probably what's happened here. Either that or she's actually moved off and left it. But it doesn't make sense to expend all that energy in killing something and then just leaving it for the hyenas. But well, this has obviously happened overnight, and so we don't know what has transpired. My guess is that she's been caught off guard and the hyenas have gotten at it, because it seems now there's pieces of this carcass all over the place. And that's one of the spots, but I think the hyenas have probably run in, grabbed, and then everybody, every man for himself and pulling in different directions, and just get a leg here and a piece of guts there, and now this one's just coming and scrounging the leftovers. So there it's now like going a little bit behind us. I just want to see. Michael, and I think that's Michael Fleetwood. You're saying that this is a male called Siga. Am I right there, Louise? Siga? And that. So thanks very much. Oh, figure. Okay, so figure. Thanks for that, Michael. You guys with your hyena identifications, you are magnificent, because very quickly you guys get your IDs. So thanks a lot for that. Let's just go and follow it and see if there's any other pieces. I can really smell it now. So, folks, let me just see if I can follow this hyena a little bit, and if the signal doesn't break up. So we'll work that out. But while I'm doing that, let's head on over to Tristan.
Well, good luck, Ralph. I hope that you find Tandi and little Klalamba somewhere close by there. Knowing Tandi, she's probably gone off hunting again and has found herself another meal already. She's another story when it comes to hunting and finding of food. But we are in the Mulwati, as one may have seen, trying to see if we can find any sign of Tingana, if there's any tracks for him where he may or may not have spent the sort of night moving around. I know he was last seen just behind the dam wall, so what I'm doing is I'm just driving a route that I know he likes to walk, trying to pick up any tracks. I found Hosana's tracks from the day before where he walked, because he walked the exact same way, and now I'm just trying to see if maybe, just maybe, Tingana didn't sort of follow his tracks a little bit and then flop down and have a bit of a nap somewhere here. So that's the idea, at least. Whether we are going to be right remains to be seen. So far, no sign of Tingana's tracks coming down with Hosana's, but we'll see. You never know. We didn't pick up anything for him on the drone this morning. We also didn't find any tracks indicating that he has moved or gone anywhere. So he might still be in this block. Maybe he found himself a meal. Maybe there was some sort of sign of him here, and that's why he's not sort of come out. I don't know. It'll be interesting. But either way, we're going to scratch and try our luck and see what we can find. Careful there, David. There's a big hole there. It's not ideal. It's right in the middle of our little two-track as well, and there's not really much space to get around it, so we'll be a bit careful with that big hole. Yes, I'm sure you all noticed as the car launched in about 45 different directions, almost like one of those cars that has the, what's it called again, Louise? I forget the name now. Hydraulic system. There we go. I'll get it eventually. Yes, a hydraulic suspension. Now all we need is a big speaker, and then it can match our bouncing around with our hydraulic suspension. No, let's rather not have that, because I'm not going to be a huge fan. Chrome spinners for Wendy. You think a little chrome spinner mag for Wendy would be ideal? What about one of those lights? What do you call them? What are they? UV lights that go underneath? Is it UV lights? I don't know. Those colored lights. Fluorescent lights. Yes, fluorescent. Yes, they will pulse in time with the music, as well as the wheels will spin in the same rate as the music plays. So it will slow and quicken. Then we'll have proper pimped out vehicles, if you want to call it that. So they will be these proper vehicles that are... No, I'm joking. I would never have that. Can you imagine how terrible that would be to see in the bush and have driving around? It would be funny to see outside of the bush, but yes, Hosana can be our lap cat that sits on the hood of the car and just sort of drives around with his head nodding as the music plays. Of course, this is the most ridiculous conversation. I don't know how we've even gotten to this point, but this is what happens in the mornings when we don't find much. We end up delving into all kinds of random thoughts. I drove into a hole, yes, exactly. But luckily this time I didn't fall out, Louise. This time I managed to hold on, and David also didn't fall out, so we're doing well today. It's a far cry better than a few months ago, that's for sure. Although that wasn't a hole. Holes are not so bad. Oh, hello, giraffe. Yes, I know. We are the picture of success, Louise. We didn't fall out the car. That is a successful moment in anyone's career, to be honest. It's also a successful moment to find a female giraffe. I know, we found a giraffe. It looks like quite a heavily pregnant giraffe, too, that is busy walking through there. Got a very, very big tummy, and so I would imagine that this one has got little ones inside. Now, I'm going to try and move forward, David, because it's going to the toilet. So I'm hoping that because it's going to the toilet, it's going to have a momentary... No. It was supposed to just sit still for 2 seconds so that we could get a better view. But now it's... Where are you off to? I wonder if it's on its own, because I don't see any little hooves sticking out. So it's not going to be giving birth right now. But I wonder if that's maybe why it's separated from others, is that it's prepping. Because the tummy is very, very big. Come on, come through. I want to see your tummy better. It's hopefully going to come out behind us. There's a thicket, and you can see how well they camouflage. You would think such a big animal would be easy to see, but that broken pattern really does work quite well to keep them hidden. All right, now here's the gap. Let's see. Yes, that tummy is very big, isn't it? She's very stretched at the moment, so I think she's going to have a calf fairly soon, actually. Now, I apologize about the aerials. She's come around the back of the car at the moment and is stopped just to look at us, but I wonder if she's not come in here to have a little one. Be interesting. Normally with giraffe, though, if they are in labor, you start to see these little hooves sticking out the back end, and you can actually see that they're about to give birth. She doesn't have that yet. She's still, I think, got a little way to go, but she's definitely very, very swollen and very big and sort of round. So that little one inside there must be quite big already, and I wonder when she's going to give birth. Wouldn't it be cool to find a giraffe giving birth? I've never seen them giving birth from start to finish. I've come across them with half the body out and the little babies all kind of stuck by the neck and then coming through. So I've seen that, but I've never seen them from where the little hooves all the way to it falling onto the ground. I'm going to say giraffes are your favorite. I think you and many other people in this world, the giraffes are such a sort of interesting species of animal that they generally find that they attract quite a lot of attention, and a lot of people really like giraffe because they're these mild-mannered, placid animals that are very elegant in the way that they move, in the way that they go about their business, and so they're a lot of firm favorites. Well, they're a firm favorite amongst a lot of people, and particularly kids. Kids really love giraffe, and it's probably because they're just so different looking. They've got this beautiful pattern on them, you know, and they've got they don't really have anything else like them in the world. You know, cats, obviously there's really a lot of different types of cats, and you know, also with antelope and those kind of things, but these guys are just so different to everyone else that I suppose a lot of people attach to that. And like I say, they are beautiful animals that are very elegant. And so I'm not surprised that they are a favorite of many, many people. She seems quite wary as well. I don't know if you notice, she's very sort of twitchy. Every noise, every sound, she's looking at us. She's staring in our direction, checking around. So if she is getting ready to give birth, or if she's in a situation where she wants to start trying to give birth, then she will be that way. She'll try and find a place where it's quite quiet and she can stay out of away from predators and those kind of things. So in terms of how much she'll eat before she gives birth and whether or not the amount of food that she takes in will change, I'm not quite sure. I mean, I don't think it will change. I think she'll still want to have food, and being a ruminating animal, she just tops up that stomach and then she can sit and ruminate and gain nutrients even when she's in that birthing process. And if you watch a lot of the antelope species that are ruminants when they give birth, and impala is a prime example, they often do chew the cud while they are giving birth. So, you know, if they start to feel the hooves coming out, then they don't really feed. You won't see them actually actively feeding. But in a situation where they still prior to that phase, then they do feed quite a bit, and they will feed as normal, should I say. So it doesn't seem like there's a change in the amount of food that they take in. It would be interesting to know. I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm just surmising in this situation. What is interesting is certain animals that don't ruminate. So if you look at buffalo, wildebeest and those kind of things, they will have a situation where they often feed during the birthing process. So if it's a herd animal that moves a lot, they still feed while they are giving birth, whereas, you know, some of the other animals don't. So it's interesting to kind of see how it works. Elephants don't feed while they give birth. They'll have a situation where they are obviously concentrating on just giving birth and don't do too much. She seems awfully aware of things around her. I wonder if maybe she didn't bump into Tingana today. David, did you see a giraffe on its own yesterday? Was there a baby giraffe that was seen by itself? I believe that there was a baby giraffe seen by itself somewhere. I wonder if Tingana didn't find that baby giraffe somewhere, because she is staring right into this thicket very kind of nervously. I just want to have a quick look here, David. Let's have a little scan. Just have a quick check here. The way that she's looking is though there is something in this general vicinity. Now, what it could be, I'm not quite sure. There's a lot of oxpeckers calling as well, so I wonder if maybe there's not some other giraffe or some sort of other sign of an animal here. But generally when giraffes stare, like she was staring there, it's when she's picked up something that she doesn't quite like. So I just want to double check in the back here. And I know Tingana does move around in this area quite a lot. It's also a firm favorite of Tundi to move in this section. David, do you see anything? She's moving away now. Just checking around in case. No, I don't see anything. Now, if it was... So, it doesn't seem like anything is right here. Well, I'll keep checking and having a little look. While we do that, though, let's send you back across to Sydney, who's still on his walk.
Look at this tree. It's one of those trees which are very difficult to identify. This is the sickle bush. So the sickle bush has got a very interesting traditional purpose. Where I come from, this is what I'm doing. We take the outer layers of the roots, and the roots, we soak them, and we use the decoction of those kind of roots in order to treat the following. The kids, when they're still very young, just after birth, this is what we do. If you can check here in the middle of the head, there is that part whereby you will see it beating like this. So we take these roots and we mix them together and we use them in order to harden. We use them in order to harden the fontanel and to facilitate the fontanel in order to attach. And apart from that, it also helps when it comes to the things such as the diarrhea. So if the little one is experiencing diarrhea, we use the very same kind of roots in order to treat diarrhea again. So in order to attach the fontanel of the newborn, this is the plant that we are using the roots from. So it's called the sickle bush. The adults can also come and chew these leaves. These leaves, they help to relieve hangovers. So you come and chew the leaves, but you don't have to swallow them. What's like this? It's not bad. Yeah, it's sour a little bit, but it's not bad. But it helps to relieve hangovers. It's a very interesting plant. Unfortunately, I didn't drink last night. I was going to say I am relieved now. Let's carry on and see what we are going to find next. So, sickle bush. So, just... So I didn't get that question from Leslie very well. If FC, you can repeat that to me. So there's a question about the animal dungs which can be used in order to start the fires. Now I am going to show you here. We have got the dungs for the elephants and we have got the dungs for the buffaloes. So the buffalo dungs, they can keep the fire going for a long time. So sometimes if you want to move fires from one place to the next, we use them. But the elephant dung is the one which can then be used in order as a coal. So if you can check here, what evidence are we seeing? There is some twigs, there is some leaves, you even see grasses not finally digested. So this can be, you can see there I've got a stick. So this can be a very good fire coal. So this helps in order to burn the fires. Some other people, they can even cook pap and everything just from the elephant dungs. So it helps a lot. So now, I'm still stuck with those leaves that I tasted there. But it's not sour at all. And then the taste is good. It's not bad. So I just want to see if we can find any other interesting tiny little thing in this area here. So now we can go to Ralph and see what Ralph has got on the other side. Maybe Ralph has got something interesting at the moment.
Well, everyone, I'm just making my way here through to Chitwa, and I just wanted to pop into this little drainage line and see if possibly the little chief Hosana has made his way in here. Now, I must warn you that there might be a little bit of gremlins, but it's just a short little road, so I just wanted to get through here quickly, but just so that you're warned, might be a little bit of breakup, but it's worth the risk, because Hosana made his way here yesterday, and so I just want to check. So, let's see, is he hiding around here somewhere? And then I'll also come out at the Chitwa waterhole. We'll check there just behind where he also likes hanging around near to the room, and also behind the dam wall. Let's just see if he's popped out here somewhere. I do think maybe it would be a little bit cold for him this morning to be hanging in a deep drainage line like this, but he might just have made his way through here later in the morning. That's why I thought just to come through here and have a look. There's a nice big rock here. Just all right, so Lou, I don't quite know what you were trying to tell me there. As I was saying, a little bit of break-up there, and hopefully it wasn't on your side, just on my side with the comms. We might get stuck here now, guys. But okay, Lou just telling me that Hosana was, or his tracks at least, were somewhere just a bit more west. Let's see if we get through here with the diff lock going now. Yes, a great, fantastic vehicle we do have. Rally Ralph, yeah. You know I like those little things. So let's just go out of low range. Once again, we don't need to overburden the vehicle. Which side? Should we go up this top side here and get a view from the top? So it seems like the news is that Hosana has moved off a little bit further out. But let's see what else we maybe find here. Tandi Tlalamba obviously have moved off from that Steenbok kill. Looks like pressurized by hyenas. And still this story of her not hoisting it up in the tree, I think, is always going to land her in a bit of trouble with the hyenas, because they're so quick to pick up on the smell that I think Tlalamba really needs to start learning how to feed up in the tree. But, you know, that's mommy just making sure that she does get food, but you're just inviting real danger with those hyenas. Now let's just maybe have a look at these wonderful guinea fowl. They're all just foraging about here near to the Chitwa waterhole, and they're always up to the things. You see how they run and they chase each other. Let's just see if they get up to nonsense here. I do like to watch guinea fowl. It's a little bit like watching monkeys and baboons. They're always up to something. And there always seems to be a bit of sort of dominance displays and chasing each other around, but for the minute it looks like everybody's concerned mostly with foraging, getting some food in. It's obviously a lot of energy expended last night trying to stay warm, and they would have been right down near to the water on that one little tree that overlooks or overhangs over the water, and they all roost up in that. And I would imagine that it got extremely cold last night. So this is them probably now trying to get back some energy and some protein after expending all of it, shivering and keeping warm last night. And they do try and huddle together a little bit. Now, Carol, yeah, the private property owners, they can add or top up the water in some of the little water holes in winter if it gets dry. It's like that one little water hole next to the Gallagher Lodge where Hosanna has been hanging around. That is an artificial water hole, and it has been obviously filled up by groundwater. So that's an example of one of them, and now very well used as a result. But that just assists because you can see a lot of the water holes do dry up. Chitwa here, however, doesn't seem like this one dries up completely at any time. That's why the hippos would be hanging around down there as well, because it is a permanent water hole. Biffle's Hook also seems to be a permanent water hole, and I don't think either of these, I don't know about Chitwa, but it doesn't seem like Biffle's Hook water hole is topped up artificially. Maybe here at Chitwa, but I don't know if the levels have ever gotten to a point where it's warranted, but I'm sure that if it did, for a sake with the hippos, etc., in there, I think they would definitely keep it at a level that would be safe for them, as well as it being right on the edge of the lodge. It's obviously aesthetic value to have the hippos and everybody just in front there too. So yeah, there can be a little bit of artificial assistance, but it is obviously just down to a minimum. If they can help it, they won't let too much go unnatural. But yeah, it's just quite important, obviously. Water, the essence of life. Not all the animals need to drink, you know, as much as the others. But elephants, hippos, you know, these kind of animals really find or really need, you know, quite serious bodies of water for them to be able to survive. Although, you know, there's places in Namibia that the elephants, they can survive on just a tiny little spring where it's just enough water for them to drink, you know, a little bit at a time, and they can keep coming back to this spot and drinking there. So, but you do need to have the permanent water in some areas. If you're a springbok or an oryx, gemsbok, ostrich, etc., then you don't need to have open water, but we don't have those animals here, and these animals are mostly water dependent. Right, so speaking of a dependent animal on water, it seems like the search is still on for Tingana.
Well, we're trying, but we can't find any signs of him. Those tracks in those areas where the giraffe that was staring into the distance, we eventually found what it was looking at. So it was a little duiker that was scuttling around inside the thickets, and so I think it just caught sight of something moving and decided to just kind of investigate it. But it was definitely a little duiker. No sign of Tingana, no tracks for Tingana at all. So I'm just trying to kind of scratch around and see. What we do have on the road, though, is the tracks for the lions from last night. So this is from the Talamati Pride after they hunted that buffalo. So they got changed north, and then they came back south onto the property. And so that's one that's walking on the left side, and then on the right side is just a whole pile of them all coming down the road. You can see the road is completely disturbed by tracks. Obviously my vehicle tracks from this morning where we're trying to track them down. And eventually they just turn just behind me here and then go north where they chase buffalo again into Buffalo's Hook. Now I believe that they've all come together now, not far from here. They're just on the northern side, so they're between the cut line here and an area called Freystad Clearing, which is about, I would say, a 15-minute drive, not even 10-minute drive from where we are now. So they're not that far away. Maybe tonight they'll come back south again, given that we do have buffalo still on this side. The problem is the buffalo on this side are still very far. They're right down in the southern part of Djuma, and so I don't think these lions will even hear them or see them. The only thing we can hope for is that the buffalo come back north again to Gari Dam and make a bit of a noise, and maybe these lions will pick them up and then come south again. Either way, though, nice to see buffalo and lion tracks again on Djuma, to be honest. So Dory Amais has not raised a cub yet, as far as we know, or we know that she hasn't raised a cub. So she's theoretically that one by itself right in the beginning, what we think was hers, that disappeared. And then we only ever had one sighting of it. And then she had some cubs on Simamili, and I think it might have been 3. I can't remember, 2 or 3, somewhere around there. And May didn't survive, and then now these 3 that she has had, whether or not they're still alive, I don't know. Like I say, we just got a message saying that they think they've been killed by hyenas, and that they are, are no longer here. And I asked multiple different people yesterday to try and get some sort of clarification and just some sort of indication of whether they were 100% certain, and they said that it very much looks that way, as she's not going back and forth to that area, and that there's signs of a lot of hyena tracks in the den itself. So I mean, you don't know, maybe she moved them and she's just hidden them somewhere else and the guys haven't found them, but it sounds like hyenas got hold of them, and I mean, some of the guys are convinced that they're gone and others are not really sure. So for me, it may be a little bit soon to tell exactly if they are gone. I mean, it's just a report that we've got, and it's very difficult for us to make a judgment because we're not on that side and we can't see what sort of is going on. We've only got word of mouth of others that can tell us what's happening. But if hyenas got into the den and she wasn't able to move those cubs prior to that, then I'm almost certain that those cubs are no longer around. That clan of hyenas is a big clan, and they would have dug them out and sniffed them out and tried to get them. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I hope that she's managed to at least save some of them, or at least kind of move them, but I doubt it. The problem that she was having, and it's going to be a situation for Amber Eyes and any of the lionesses in the Nkuhuma Pride that have cubs outside of what we saw in 2016, because what happens with lions is when one female has her cubs, she's got to go and she's got to have the cubs and she's got to suckle them, and then she's got to go back to the pride and back and forth. And because of this shift in the male dynamic at the moment, and the fact that the Birminghams have gone south, the Avoca boys are here, it's ended up in a situation where we've got these, the pride has moved a long way. So where she had the cubs initially, now the pride is spending way more time far south from where she is, and so she doesn't have that protection factor of the pride being close by, and her movement to get to the pride to feed and back again is so far now that it makes it very difficult for her. She has to spend a lot more time away from the cubs, which obviously inevitably means that the cubs are at more risk. If she had a situation where she gave birth with some of the other females, so like in 2016 when 3 of the females gave birth at the same time, you had a situation where those females, one would pretty much be with the cubs all the time, and the rest would go off hunting. Once they would kill, they would kind of go back and forth, and they generally were hunting very, very close to where the cubs were. And so the walks from the cubs to the kill sites were not long. It would be a 15-20 minute walk, whereas now Amber Eyes is spending probably 3-4 hours trying to get to her pride and back again, and in that time she leaves those cubs very much exposed to all kinds of things. And so she'll hopefully learn from it, and hopefully you'll have a situation where she kind of gains valuable experience. At the end of the day, every time she loses a set of cubs, she will have learned something out of it, and will try and kind of fix that the next time that she has cubs, and try and hopefully raise some to independence. But it's always sad when you have a situation where cubs get killed, and I suppose though it's nature and it's what happens out here, but it always is a tough thing to kind of deal with. Anyway, while we kind of think about all of those kind of things and try and carry on and see what else we can find, let's send you back across to Sydney, who I believe is still doing a spot of tracking.
Oh, I am so very much lucky to come across a very fresh leopard track. Fresh ingwe. Ingwe is just one of the African names to call a leopard. Is in Zulu. So here I can see the track looks very much fresh to me, and this leopard is from the eastern side of the game reserve, which is from the Kruger National Park side, heading towards the central part of the game reserve. I assume that this leopard is Tingana. Because Tingana, yesterday on my afternoon game drive, I left him going down this side. But looking at the size of this track, I'm convinced enough that this is Tingana. Quite a very beautiful track. You can see it's clear. You can see all these loops there. So maybe before I finish here, we might see him, but that will be maybe shortly after the game drive, before I get back, because I'm going to use the very same area to go back to where I've started from. So now I am going to just follow these tracks and see. Maybe it's not very far away from here where we are. Yeah, all these tracks looks very much fresh. So they are not even 30 minutes old. He has been here just now. So now let's go to Tristan. He's got something to show us.
Well, indeed, it is the last few minutes of the drive. Unfortunately, it is that time where we start to head back home. There's a few birds that are busy feeding, though, before we go anywhere. There's a couple of hornbills and starlings that are busy eating all kinds of different things. I wonder what insects are moving around there, because hornbills generally are in the presence of a few insects, so maybe a few little termites or something that's around that they're busy feeding on and trying to just get a bit of nutrients. It's turned into a miserable day again. We've got this overcast weather that's coming in, so I think it's going to be another cold one, which is not ideal. Hopefully, though, it'll bring, with the clouds, will bring some animals too this afternoon, because it was a fairly quiet drive in some respects. So I suppose for us, we had a nice drive. We had quite a few animals and got to see quite a few different things, but it felt a little quiet out there, unfortunately. So hopefully this afternoon will bring about a lot more happening, and hopefully Tandi and Kalamba will show face and we'll have a situation where we see them. But you can see the birds are still trotting about, and so we're going to be just like the birds now, and we're going to head back home and go and get some breakfast. Hopefully it's going to be a good one. I'm sure with Amanda at the helm it normally is. I wonder what we're going to have today, David. It should be a big buffet. But anyway, from Ralph and Sydney, all the cam-ups, Louise in final control, myself, we'll see you all this afternoon on our Sunset Safari.